Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the message screen with tired eyes. He had been expecting this call for months, but it still felt like a punch to the stomach. The face looking back at him was not human. It was made of what looked like living crystal, with light moving through it in slow patterns. This was Ambassador Veltar, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Captain Morrison," the alien's voice came through the speakers, cold and final. "I am here to deliver the official decision of the Galactic Federation Council. After much discussion, we have voted to remove Earth and all human colonies from Federation membership. This decision is final." Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. Around him, his crew went silent. They had all known this day might come, but hearing it made it real. The Federation had been growing tired of humans for years. They said humans asked too many questions. They said humans caused too much trouble. They said humans could not follow the rules. "May I ask why?" Jake said, keeping his voice steady, even though anger was building inside him. Veltar's crystal face showed no emotion. "Your species has proven too unpredictable for galactic society. You do not follow established protocols. You question authority, you start conflicts. Your history shows endless wars and destruction. The Council believes the galaxy will be safer without human interference." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew it would not help. The Federation had made up their minds long ago. Humans were too wild, too chaotic, too different from the other species that made up the galactic community. Most aliens lived in perfect order, following rules that had not changed for thousands of years. Humans changed constantly, adapted constantly, questioned constantly. "What about our colonies?" Jake asked. "What about the humans living on Federation worlds?" "All humans must return to your designated territory," Veltar replied. "You will be allowed to keep your current 12-colony worlds, but you are forbidden from expanding beyond them. Any human ship found outside your territory will be turned back or destroyed." The message ended, and the screen went dark. Jake stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of what had just happened. Humanity had just been kicked out of the galaxy 3 decks below. Dr. Lisa Carter was in her lab when the announcement came over the ship's communication system. She stopped working and listened as Captain Morrison's voice told the crew what had just happened. Lisa had spent her whole life studying alien species, learning their languages, trying to understand their cultures. Now all of that work meant nothing. Lisa walked to the observation window and looked out at space. In the distance, she could see the lights of Proxima Station, the Federation's biggest outpost near Earth. Even as she watched, ships were leaving the station. The Federation was pulling out completely. They were taking their advanced technology. With them, they were taking their trade agreements. They were taking everything that had made Earth part of the galactic community. The Federation ships were huge and beautiful, made with technology that humans could barely understand. Their hulls were smooth and perfect, like they had been grown rather than built. The ships moved through space without any visible engines, powered by energy sources that Federation scientists had never fully explained to humans. Now those ships were leaving, and they would never come back. Lisa pressed her hand against the window and watched the last Federation transport disappear into hyperspace. She had friends on that ship, colleagues she had worked with for years. Some of them had seemed genuinely sad about the decision to expel humanity, but none of them had spoken against it when it mattered. On the other side of the station, Commander Alex Rodriguez was in an emergency meeting with the other senior officers. The room was full of worried faces. Everyone knew that this was a disaster. Earth had been part of the Federation for over 200 years. Human colonies had been built with Federation technology. Human ships used Federation star maps. Human scientists had learned from Federation research. "How many ships do we have that can operate without Federation support?" Alex asked the room. Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor looked at his datapad. "Maybe 30% of our fleet. The rest need Federation fuel cells or navigation systems." "What about our colonies?" asked Colonel Amy Brooks. "How many can survive without Federation supply lines?" 8 out of 12, replied Dr. Kevin Walsh, the chief engineer. The other 4 were built in systems that we cannot reach with our own technology. We might have to abandon them. Alex felt sick. Millions of humans lived on those colonies. They had built homes there, started families there, lived their whole lives there. Now they might have to leave everything behind because the Federation had decided humans were too dangerous to be part of galactic civilization. We need to contact Earth immediately, Alex said. The government needs to know what we are dealing with. Back on Earth, President Helen Martinez was in her office when the call came in. She had been expecting bad news, but not this bad. The Federation was not just reducing human membership or putting restrictions on human activities. They were cutting humans off completely. Are you telling me that we are banned from leaving our own territory? She asked the screen where Alex's face looked back at her with grim expression. That is exactly what I am telling you, Madam President. We have 12 worlds, and that is all we get. The Federation is taking back all their technology, all their trade agreements, all their scientific partnerships. They are leaving us completely alone. Helen sat back in her chair and tried to process what this meant. Earth had built its whole economy around trade with Federation worlds. Human scientists had spent centuries learning from alien technology. Human explorers had mapped the galaxy using Federation star charts. Now all of that was gone. What about humans living in Federation space? Helen asked. They have 6 months to return to human territory or they will be arrested, Alex replied. The Federation is not giving them a choice. Helen closed her eyes and thought about the thousands of humans who had made lives in Federation space. Students at alien universities, scientists working on research projects, diplomats and traders and explorers. All of them would have to come home to a humanity that was suddenly cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, the news was spreading. On New Boston, a mining colony at the edge of human space, Captain Danny Foster was meeting with the colonial governor. They had just learned that their world was now on the frontier of a very small human territory. What does this mean for us? Governor Patricia Hayes asked. Danny looked at the star map on the wall. Beyond New Boston, there were thousands of star systems that humans had planned to explore. There were worlds that might have been perfect for human colonies. There were alien species that humans had hoped to meet and learn from. Now all of that was forbidden. It means we are on our own, Danny said. The Federation does not want us spreading into the galaxy. They think we will cause trouble. Patricia laughed, but there was no humor in it. We have been part of the Federation for 2 centuries. We followed their rules, we paid their taxes, we helped fight their wars, and now they throw us out because we ask too many questions? Danny nodded. That is exactly what they did. Outside? The sun was setting over New Boston's main city. It was a beautiful sight, but Danny could not enjoy it. He was thinking about all the human dreams that had just been crushed, all the plans that would never happen, all the discoveries that would never be made. Humanity had just been pushed aside by the galaxy. The Federation believed they were making the universe safer. They thought humans were too chaotic, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted with the freedom to explore and expand. They had no idea how wrong they were. They had no idea that their decision would come back to haunt them. They had no idea that someday they would desperately need the very chaos and unpredictability that they were trying to eliminate. But that day was still far in the future. For now, humanity was alone among the stars, cut off from the galactic community, with nowhere to go but inward. The Federation had made their choice. Now they would all have to live with the consequences. 25 years had passed since the Federation threw humanity out of the galactic community. The aliens expected humans to give up and fade away. They thought without Federation technology and guidance, human civilization would collapse. They were completely wrong. Dr. Kevin Walsh stood in his laboratory on Mars, looking at the machine that would change everything. It was not pretty like Federation technology. It was built from human materials, designed by human minds, and it looked rough and practical. But it worked better than anything the Federation had ever built. Are you sure about this? Asked his assistant, Dr. Rachel Turner. She was young and brilliant, part of a new generation of human scientists who had grown up after the expulsion. These young people did not think like the older generation who had learned from alien teachers. They thought in completely new ways, Kevin smiled. I am sure. This quantum drive will let us travel faster than light without using any Federation technology. We do not need their jump gates anymore. We can go anywhere we want. The breakthrough had taken 20 years of hard work. When the Federation left, they took all their advanced technology with them. Human scientists had to start over, building everything from scratch. But something amazing happened. Without alien technology to copy, humans began to invent things that were completely different. The Federation always built their machines to be perfect and predictable. Every Federation ship was exactly the same. Every Federation city followed the same plan. Every Federation solution was tested for thousands of years before being used. Humans did not have thousands of years. They had to be creative and take risks. In orbit around Earth, Colonel Amy Brooks was preparing for humanity's first independent deep space mission in 25 years. Her ship was called the Pioneer, and it was unlike anything that had ever been built. Where Federation ships were smooth and elegant, the Pioneer looked like it had been built in someone's garage. It was covered in extra equipment, backup systems, and modifications that no alien engineer would ever approve. All systems ready for jump, reported Lieutenant Mike Roberts from the navigation station. Amy looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all volunteers, all willing to risk their lives to prove that humans could explore space without Federation permission. The ship was experimental. The drive was untested. The mission was dangerous. But that had never stopped humans before. Engage the quantum drive, Amy ordered. The ship disappeared from Earth orbit in a flash of blue light. A second later, it appeared near Alpha Centauri, 4 light-years away. The jump had taken only moments, and they had done it without any Federation technology at all. Back on Earth, the success of the Pioneer mission changed everything. President Helen Martinez, now in her 3rd term, stood before a crowd of reporters and made an announcement that shocked the world. Today, humanity begins a new age of exploration. We are no longer dependent on Federation technology or Federation permission. We will explore the galaxy on our own terms in our own way. The Federation had expected humans to stay trapped in their small territory, slowly declining without alien support. Instead, human colonies began spreading to new worlds at a rate that amazed everyone. Each new settlement was different from the last, adapted to local conditions in ways that Federation colonies never were. On the water world of New Venice, humans built floating cities that moved with the tides. On the desert planet of Sahara Prime, they constructed underground cities that stayed cool in the blazing heat. On the ice world of Frosthaven, they created heated domes that turned frozen wasteland into gardens. Captain Danny Foster was now commanding the exploration ship New Horizon, mapping star systems that the Federation had never bothered to visit. His mission was to find worlds suitable for human settlement and to make contact with any alien species they encountered. What he found surprised him. There were dozens of intelligent species that the Federation had dismissed as primitive or unimportant. These aliens had been ignored by the galactic community for centuries. But humans, with their talent for understanding different cultures, began forming friendships and alliances that the Federation had never achieved. On the planet Verdania, Danny met with Chief Growler of the Keth people. The Keth looked like giant bears and communicated through a combination of growls and scent markers. Federation diplomats had tried to contact them decades ago but gave up when they could not understand the complex scent language. Danny had spent 3 months learning to communicate with the Keth. It was not easy, but humans were good at adapting to new situations. The Federation only knew how to deal with species that were similar to themselves. Humans could learn to work with anyone. Your people are different from the Crystal Builders, Chief Growler said, using the Keth name for the Federation. You listen, you learn, you do not try to make us be like you. Danny nodded. We want to be friends, not rulers. The alliance with the Keth was just the beginning. Human explorers made contact with the singing crystals of harmony, the plant people of Garden World, and the energy beings of Plasma Station. Each contact led to new friendships, new trade agreements, and new knowledge. Dr. Lisa Carter, now the head of Earth's Xenobiology Department, was amazed by what they were learning. The Federation had thousands of member species, but they were all very similar. They all thought in orderly, predictable ways. The species that humans were meeting were completely different. They offered new perspectives on science, art, and philosophy. The Federation missed so much, Lisa told her research team. They only accepted species that fit their narrow definition of civilization. They ignored anyone who was different or unusual. Meanwhile, human technology continued to advance in unexpected directions. Without Federation guidelines to follow, human inventors created devices that worked in ways no alien had ever imagined. They built ships that could change shape during flight. They designed computers that used chaos theory to solve problems. They created weapons that became more effective the more unpredictable the battle became. The Federation noticed these developments, but they did not understand what they meant. Ambassador Veltar received reports from Federation observers who monitored human space from a distance. The reports described human colonies that survived in impossible conditions, human ships that used impossible technology, and human diplomats who made friends with species the Federation had written off as worthless. How are they doing this? Veltar asked the Council. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. Their expansion should be slow and careful. Instead, they are spreading faster than any species in galactic history. The answer was simple, but the Federation could not see it. Humans succeeded because they embraced the very traits that the Federation had rejected. They were chaotic, unpredictable, and willing to take risks. They adapted to each new situation instead of trying to force every situation to adapt to them. On the mining world of Iron Peak, human engineers solved the problem of unstable ground by building cities that could move. When the Earth shifted, Federation engineers would have spent decades studying the problem before attempting a solution. Humans just built something and improved it as they went along. On the storm world of Thunder Bay, human settlers learned to use the constant lightning as a power source. Federation colonists would have tried to control the weather or find a calmer planet. Humans found a way to work with the chaos. Each human world became a laboratory for new ideas. Without the Federation's rigid rules and careful procedures, humans experimented freely. Sometimes their experiments failed, but humans learned from failure and tried again. The Federation was so afraid of failure that they rarely tried anything. Truly new, General Peter Kane, now the head of Earth's military forces, watched the reports from the frontier colonies with pride. Human settlements were thriving in places where Federation experts said life was impossible. Human diplomats were making allies that Federation ambassadors had ignored. Human scientists were making discoveries that Federation researchers had missed. They thought we would collapse without their help, Peter told his staff. Instead, we have become stronger than we ever were as Federation members. The most surprising discovery came from Dr. Walsh's research team. They found that human technology was not just different from Federation technology, it was actually more advanced in many ways. The Federation had focused on perfection and predictability for so long that they had stopped innovating. Their technology had not changed significantly in over 1,000 years. Human technology, built from scratch in just 25 years, was already surpassing Federation devices in many areas. Human ships were faster and more adaptable. Human computers were more creative and flexible. Human weapons were more effective because they were unpredictable. The galaxy was changing, and the Federation did not realize it yet. They had pushed humanity aside, expecting humans to fade into obscurity. Instead, they had created a rival that was growing stronger every day. The chaos and unpredictability that the Federation feared were becoming humanity's greatest advantages, but the Federation would not remain ignorant for much longer. Something was coming that would force them to confront the truth about what they had done. 50 years had passed since humanity was expelled from the Federation. The galaxy had settled into a new routine. The Federation continued to rule most of known space with their careful, orderly methods. Humans had built their own small empire, based on chaos and adaptation. Neither side paid much attention to the other anymore. That was about to change. Deep in the galactic core, something ancient was stirring. The Federation's deep space monitoring stations picked up strange signals. At first, energy readings that made no sense. Metal structures moving through space where no civilization should exist. The scientists who studied the data were confused and worried. Admiral Kexthul of the Federation fleet stood in the command center of Nexus Station, the Federation's most important military base. The crystalline being's light patterns showed deep concern as he reviewed the latest reports from the core worlds. "How many ships have we lost contact with?" Kexthul asked his aide. 17 in the past month, replied Commander Zeffel. All were investigating the energy disturbances near the galactic center. None have returned or sent any messages. Kexthul had been a military officer for over 3 centuries. He had seen wars between species, rebellions by colony worlds, and pirate attacks on trade routes. But he had never seen anything like this. Ships simply disappeared without any warning or distress signal. The first real evidence of what they were facing came from the mining world of Kepler-7. The planet was home to 2 million Federation citizens, mostly crystalline beings like Kexthul who worked in the deep mines. It was a peaceful world with no military significance. That made what happened next even more shocking. The attack came without warning. One moment, Kepler-7 was a thriving world. The next moment, it was gone. Not destroyed in the usual sense, but completely consumed. The planet, its 2 moons, and everything in the star system simply vanished, leaving only empty space. The Federation rescue fleet that arrived found nothing but cosmic dust and strange energy readings. Whatever had attacked Kepler-7 had not just killed the inhabitants. It had consumed the very matter that made up the planet itself. "This is impossible," said Dr. Velenex, the Federation's chief scientist. She had studied the energy readings for days, trying to understand what could have caused such complete destruction. No known weapon can destroy matter at this level. This suggests technology far beyond anything in our databases. More attacks followed quickly. The industrial world of Titan Base vanished overnight. The research station at Prometheus Point simply stopped existing. 3 more worlds disappeared in the span of a single week. Each attack was the same. Complete consumption of all matter in the system. The Federation's response was everything humans had come to expect from them. They formed committees to study the problem. They held meetings to discuss possible solutions. They sent diplomatic messages to nearby systems asking for information. They did everything except take immediate action. Ambassador Veltar, the same being who had expelled humanity from the Federation, called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from thousands of worlds gathered to discuss the crisis. The debate went on for days without reaching any conclusions. "We need more information before we can act," argued Counselor Hexrin from the vegan system. "We cannot risk our fleets against an unknown enemy." "But worlds are disappearing while we debate," replied Counselor Jextel from the Andorian colonies. "How many more systems will we lose before we decide to fight?" The Federation's military doctrine was based on careful planning and overwhelming force. They liked to study their enemies for months or years before engaging in battle. Their fleets were powerful but inflexible, trained to execute precise battle plans against known threats. But this enemy was unlike anything they had ever faced. The Devourers, as they came to be known, were not a biological species fighting for territory or resources. They were ancient machines, possibly millions of years old, that had been sleeping in the galactic core until something awakened them. The Federation's first major fleet engagement was a disaster. Admiral Kexthul led 200 ships against a Devourer formation near the Centauri Nebula. The battle lasted less than an hour. The Federation fleet was completely destroyed. While the Devourers seemed to take no damage at all, the machines adapted to every tactic the Federation used. When the fleet used energy weapons, the Devourers developed shields. When they switched to kinetic weapons, the machines created armor. When they tried to jam communications, the Devourers found new ways to coordinate their attacks. Worse, the machines learned from each battle. Every Federation tactic, every weapon, every strategy was analyzed and countered. The Devourers became more effective with each encounter, while the Federation fleets became more predictable and easier to defeat. Meanwhile, in human space, the attacks were just beginning to reach the outer colonies. Captain Danny Foster, now Admiral of the Human Exploration Fleet, received the first reports from the frontier worlds. 3 of our deep space monitoring stations have gone silent, reported Captain Sarah Jenkins from the Communications Center. The last message from Station Alpha mentioned strange energy readings approaching their position. Danny studied the star maps with growing concern. The energy signatures matched descriptions from Federation space, but the attacks on human worlds were different. Instead of complete consumption, the human stations seemed to have been partially damaged and abandoned. Dr. Lisa Carter, now serving as Earth's chief science advisor, was studying the wreckage of Station Alpha when she made a disturbing discovery. The Devourer technology was more advanced than anything she had ever seen, but it showed signs of confusion when dealing with human equipment. "Look at this damage pattern," Lisa told her research team. "The machines tried to analyze our computer systems, but they seem to have been confused by our software design. Our chaos-based programming doesn't follow the logical patterns they expect." This gave Lisa an idea. She contacted Admiral Foster immediately with her findings. "Denny, I know why the Devourers are having trouble with our systems. Their technology is designed to counter logical, predictable responses, but human technology doesn't work that way. We build things that adapt and change. We use random elements in our programming. Our ships don't follow standard design patterns." Danny understood immediately. "You're saying our chaos and unpredictability might actually be advantages against these machines?" "Exactly. The Federation builds everything to be perfect and predictable. That makes them easy targets for an enemy that adapts to known patterns. But humans are naturally unpredictable. We might be the only species that can fight these things effectively." Meanwhile, the Federation was becoming desperate. Over 50 worlds had been consumed in just 3 months. Their most advanced fleets had been destroyed or forced to retreat. The careful, methodical approach that had served them for millennia was completely useless against an enemy that adapted faster than they could plan. In a secret meeting on Proxima Station, a group of Federation military officers discussed options that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Commander Lisa Wang, a human who had remained in Federation space after the expulsion, was part of this group. Lisa had spent decades working her way up through Federation ranks. She understood both human and alien military thinking. Now she found herself in the impossible position of being humanity's only voice in Federation planning sessions. "We need to contact Earth," Lisa told the group. "The humans have been fighting Devourer scouts for weeks. Their colonies are surviving attacks that would destroy Federation worlds." Admiral Kexthal's light patterns showed reluctance. "The Council will never approve contact with the humans. They were expelled for good reasons." "Those reasons don't matter anymore," Lisa replied. "Pride won't save the galaxy from the Devourers. We need help, and humans are the only species showing any success against these machines." The debate continued, but time was running out. Intelligence reports showed massive Devourer fleets moving toward the Federation's core systems. The machines had consumed hundreds of worlds and were growing stronger with each victory on Earth. President Martinez received fragmentary reports from human intelligence networks. The Federation was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. Their rigid military structure could not adapt to an enemy that changed tactics constantly. "How long before the Devourers reach human space?" Martinez asked General Kane during an emergency briefing. "Based on their current rate of advance, maybe 6 months," Kane replied. "But they are moving faster as they consume more worlds. Each victory gives them more resources and more knowledge. The irony was not lost on human leadership. The Federation had expelled them for being too chaotic and unpredictable. Now, those same traits might be humanity's only advantage against an enemy that the ordered, logical Federation could not defeat, but would the Federation swallow their pride and ask for help from the species they had rejected? And would humanity be willing to help the aliens who had thrown them out of the galactic community? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. The Devourers were approaching the Federation's most important systems, and desperation was about to overcome decades of alien pride. The Federation's pride finally broke on a Tuesday morning when the Devourers consumed the entire Altair system in less than 4 hours. 3 billion Federation citizens simply vanished along with their planets, their space stations, and their orbital cities. The machines left nothing behind except empty space and the growing terror of a civilization that had never faced true defeat. Ambassador Veltar stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his crystal body flickering with patterns that showed deep shame and desperate fear. Around him, representatives from 1,000 worlds waited to hear words that no Federation leader had ever spoken before. "We cannot defeat the Devourers," Veltar said, his voice breaking the silence like shattered glass. "Our fleets are destroyed. Our weapons are useless. Our strategies have failed completely. We estimate that the Federation has perhaps 3 months before total collapse." The council chamber erupted in shocked voices and flashing light patterns. Some representatives refused to believe the situation was so dire. Others demanded impossible solutions. But Veltar raised his crystal arms for silence, knowing that the hardest words were still to come. "There's only one option left to us," he continued. "We must ask the humans for help." The chamber fell silent again. The idea was so shocking that many council members could not process it at first. Humans had been expelled from the Federation 50 years ago. They had been declared too dangerous, too chaotic, too unpredictable for civilized society. Now the Federation was admitting they needed the very species they had rejected 3 days later. Ambassador Veltar's ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. The vessel was badly damaged from a recent Devourer attack, its perfect hull scarred and burned. It was a visible symbol of how far the mighty Federation had fallen. President Martinez, now serving her 4th term as Earth's leader, met the alien delegation in the orbital station that had once welcomed Federation ships every day. The irony was not lost on anyone present. 50 years ago, Veltar had delivered humanity's expulsion notice in this same room. Now he was here to beg for help. "Ambassador Veltar," President Martinez said formally, "this is unexpected. I was told that humans were forbidden from participating in galactic affairs." Veltar's crystal body dimmed with what humans had learned to recognize as alien embarrassment. "Madam President, I come before you to formally apologize for the Federation's treatment of humanity. We were wrong, we were foolish. We acted out of fear and prejudice. And now?" Martinez asked, keeping her voice neutral. "Now we are desperate," Veltar admitted. "The Devourers have consumed over 200 Federation worlds. Our military has been destroyed. Our colonies are evacuating. Within months, the Federation will cease to exist. We need your help." Martinez leaned back in her chair and studied the alien ambassador. She had been expecting this moment for years. Ever since the first reports of Devourer attacks reached human intelligence networks, the Federation's predictable nature made them sitting ducks for an adaptive enemy. "What exactly are you offering?" "In return for our help?" Martinez asked. Veltar's patterns brightened with hope. "Full restoration of Federation membership, complete technology sharing, territorial concessions, trade agreements, whatever you want, we are prepared to negotiate." But Martinez was already shaking her head. "You misunderstand, Ambassador. We do not want to rejoin the Federation. We have built our own civilization, our own alliances, our own technology. We are no longer the species you expelled 50 years ago." The truth was that humanity had grown. Beyond the Federation in many ways, human technology was now more advanced in several key areas. Human colonies were more successful and adaptable. Human diplomats had formed alliances with dozens of species that the Federation had ignored. Earth no longer needed what the Federation could offer. Admiral Jake Morrison, now elderly but still sharp, entered the meeting room with a datapad full of intelligence reports. His presence reminded everyone of how this crisis had begun decades ago with humanity's expulsion. "Tell me about your losses against the Devourers," Morrison said without ceremony. "I want specific numbers." Veltar provided the grim statistics. Over 300 ships destroyed in just 6 months. 57 worlds completely consumed. Billions of Federation citizens dead or missing. The numbers painted a picture of complete military collapse. "And what about human losses?" Martinez asked Morrison. Morrison smiled grimly. "We have lost 3 monitoring stations and had 7 colonies attacked, but none of our worlds have been destroyed. None of our major fleets have been defeated. We have actually won several battles against Devourer forces." "Veltara's crystal?" Body flashed with disbelief. "That is impossible. The Devourers adapt to every tactic we use. They counter every weapon we deploy. How are you achieving success where we have failed completely?" Dr. Lisa Carter, now in her 70s but still brilliant, joined the meeting with her latest research data. She had spent months studying captured Devourer technology from the failed attacks on human worlds. "The answer is simple," Lisa explained. "The Devourers are designed to analyze and counter logical, predictable behavior. Federation tactics follow established patterns. Federation ships use standard designs. Federation strategies are based on thousands of years of military doctrine. The machines can predict everything you do, but human behavior is different." Morrison added, "We do not follow standard patterns. Our ships change configuration during battle. Our tactics adapt constantly. Our strategies are based on controlled chaos rather than rigid planning." Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing Devourer computer systems. "Look at this data from a machine we captured. Its analysis algorithms are incredibly sophisticated, but they all assume the enemy will behave logically. When faced with truly random or chaotic behavior, the systems become confused and ineffective." Veltar studied the data with growing understanding. "You are saying that humanity's unpredictable nature is actually an advantage against these machines?" "More than an advantage," Carter replied. "It might be the only thing that can defeat them. The Devourers cannot adapt to opponents who have no fixed patterns to analyze." President Martinez leaned forward. "Before we discuss any cooperation, I want to see the intelligence data from your recent battles. I want to know exactly what we would be facing." Over the next several hours, Federation officers provided detailed briefings on Devourer capabilities. The machines were ancient, possibly predating most current galactic civilizations. They had been dormant in the galactic core for millions of years until something had awakened them. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but it was based on principles of logic and order that made them vulnerable to truly chaotic opposition. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical data with the eye of someone who had spent decades fighting. "Impossible odds? Your fleets attack in formation? Your ships follow standard combat protocols. Your commanders execute predetermined battle plans. No wonder the machines are defeating you so easily. How would human forces approach these battles?" "Differently?" Veltar asked. Morrison smiled. "We would not approach them the same way twice. Human commanders adapt their tactics during battle. Our ships break formation to pursue individual targets. Our weapons fire in patterns that serve no apparent tactical purpose but confuse enemy analysis systems." Dr. Kevin Walsh, now the head of Earth's Advanced Research Division, had been quietly reviewing Federation technical specifications. His quantum drive technology had given humanity freedom to explore the galaxy. Now it might give them the edge needed to save it. "There is something else," Walsh said. "Human technology operates on principles of controlled randomness. Our computers use chaos theory to solve problems. Our ships incorporate unpredictable elements in their design. Our weapons become more effective the more chaotic the battle becomes. The Federation representatives exchanged glances. Everything they had rejected about humanity 50 years ago was exactly what the galaxy needed. Now, the chaos and unpredictability that had made humans unsuitable for Federation membership was the key to defeating the Devourers, but the biggest revelation came from Colonel Amy Brooks. Now general in charge of human colonial defense, she had been quietly coordinating with human colonies that had faced Devourer attacks. "We have already developed countermeasures," Brooks announced. "Human forces have fought and defeated Devourer fleets in 17 separate engagements. We know how to hurt them." The room fell silent. The Federation had lost every major battle against the Devourers, while humans were actually winning fights against the same enemy. "How?" Veltar asked desperately. Brooks activated a holographic display showing recent battle footage. Human ships moved through space in patterns that looked like chaos but somehow worked together effectively. They attacked from unpredictable angles, used weapons in unconventional ways, and executed maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat. "We fight like humans," Brooks said simply. "We embrace chaos instead of fearing it. We adapt instead of planning. We take risks instead of playing it safe. The Devourers cannot counter tactics they cannot predict." President Martinez looked around the room at her advisors, then back at the desperate Federation representatives. The final battle for the galaxy began at the Nexus system, the Federation's capital and the heart of galactic civilization. The Devourers had gathered their largest fleet there, over 10,000 machine ships preparing to consume the most important worlds in known space. If Nexus fell, the Federation would be finished, and the machines would have unlimited resources to spread across the entire galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth vessel Defiance, watching the enemy fleet through the main view screen. The Devourer ships were perfect and identical, arranged in precise geometric formations that spoke of machine logic and calculated efficiency. They moved through space like a swarm of deadly insects, ready to consume everything in their path. Federation. "Fleet reports ready," announced Captain Sarah Jenkins from the communications station. 2,000 ships from 12 different species. Morrison nodded grimly. The Federation had managed to gather the largest fleet in their history, but everyone knew it would not be enough. Conventional tactics had failed against the Devourers every time. Today they would try something completely different. Today they would fight like humans on the Federation command ship. Ambassador Veltar watched the human fleet with a mixture of hope and terror. The human ships looked nothing like proper military vessels. They were covered in extra equipment, modifications, and weapons that no Federation engineer would ever approve. Some ships had been rebuilt so many times that their original design was barely recognizable. "Are you certain this will work?" Veltar asked Admiral Morrison over the communication link. Morrison smiled, but his eyes were hard. "Nothing is certain in war, Ambassador. But chaos has served humanity well for 50,000 years. Today we find out if it can save the galaxy." The human fleet began moving toward the Devourers, but not in any formation the aliens recognized. Ships scattered in all directions, some moving alone, others in small groups, with no apparent plan or coordination. To the ordered Federation minds, it looked like complete chaos. Dr. Kevin Walsh was aboard the science vessel Pioneer, monitoring the battle from a safe distance. His job was to coordinate the secret weapon that might turn the tide of battle. The quantum chaos generators were his latest invention, devices that created fields of controlled randomness around human ships. "All generators online," Walsh reported. Chaos fields at maximum intensity. The effect was immediate. As human ships entered the energy fields, their movements became even more unpredictable. Course corrections happened at random intervals. Speed changes followed no pattern. The ships moved like they were dancing to music only they could hear. Colonel Amy Brooks, now commanding the assault carrier Freedom, led the first wave of human fighters into battle. Her squadron of 50 small ships moved through space like a school of fish, each pilot making independent decisions while somehow working together toward the same goal. "Remember," Brooks told her pilots over the communication system, "do not follow any predetermined attack pattern. Trust your instincts. Adapt to what you see, fight like humans. The first contact between human and Devourer forces was unlike any battle in galactic history. The machine ships tried to analyze the approaching human fighters, but their computers could not predict what the pilots would do next. Every time the Devourers adapted to one tactic, the humans had already switched to something completely different. Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor, flying a modified fighter called Wildcard, attacked a massive Devourer battleship by flying in spirals that made no tactical sense. The machine's defensive systems could not target him because his flight path followed no logical pattern. When he finally fired his weapons, he aimed at what appeared to be a non-critical section of the enemy hull, but Taylor had studied the captured Devourer technology. He knew that the machines relied on central processing cores that could be anywhere in their ships. His seemingly random shots hit one of these cores and the entire battleship shut down in seconds across the battlefield. Similar scenes played out as human pilots used tactics that violated every rule of space combat. They attacked from impossible angles, fired weapons at random intervals, and executed maneuvers that should have resulted in collisions but somehow worked perfectly. Dr. Lisa Carter was monitoring the battle from Earth's Strategic Command Center, analyzing data from thousands of sensors. What she saw amazed her. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed invincible for months, was being torn apart by an enemy they could not understand. The machines are trying to adapt, Carter reported to Morrison. But human behavior is changing faster than their analysis systems can process. Every time they think they understand our tactics, we do something completely different. The Federation fleet, following human instructions, had abandoned their traditional formations and fighting methods. Federation ships spread out across the battlefield, attacking individual targets instead of maintaining precise battle lines. For the first time in their history, Federation commanders were encouraged to improvise and take risks. Commander Lisa Wang, the human who had spent decades in Federation service, found herself coordinating between human and alien forces. She watched as crystalline Federation ships tried to copy human tactics, moving in unpredictable patterns that felt completely wrong to their ordered minds. "This is madness," reported Captain Zexavel from a Federation destroyer. "My crew does not understand these tactics." "That is the point," Wang replied. "If your own crew cannot predict what you will do, neither can the enemy. Trust the chaos." The turning point came when Captain Danny Foster, commanding the exploration vessel New Horizon, proposed a plan that horrified every military mind in the galaxy. He suggested attacking the Devourer command ship by having every human vessel fire at once in completely random directions. "That makes no sense," protested Admiral Kexthal. "Random fire cannot possibly hit such a specific target." Foster grinned. "You are thinking like a Federation officer. Random does not mean uncontrolled. Watch and learn." At Foster's signal, 300 human ships fired their weapons simultaneously. The energy beams and projectiles filled space in what looked like a chaotic light show. But Dr. Walsh had calculated the odds carefully. With that many random shots in a confined space, the probability of hitting any specific target became almost certain. The Devourer command ship, protected by shields designed to stop coordinated attacks, was overwhelmed by the sheer randomness of the assault. Multiple shots penetrated its defenses from unexpected angles, and the massive vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light, with their command ship destroyed. The Devourer fleet began to falter. The machines had always relied on central coordination to maintain their perfect efficiency. Without clear orders, individual Devourer ships became confused and disorganized. Human forces pressed their advantage, attacking with renewed chaos. Ships broke off from their groups to pursue fleeing enemies. Pilots made up new tactics on the spot. Commanders issued orders that contradicted their previous instructions. The battlefield became a symphony of controlled madness that the machine minds could not comprehend. General Peter Kane, coordinating the overall human strategy, watched the enemy fleet collapse with grim satisfaction. The Devourers had been unbeatable because they faced predictable opponents. But humans had never been predictable, and today that trait was saving the galaxy. Enemy fleet is retreating toward the galactic core, reported Captain Jenkins. They are abandoning the Nexus system. But Morrison knew the battle was not over yet. The Devourers would regroup and try again, unless humanity could deliver a final blow that would end the threat permanently. Dr. Walsh had one more trick prepared. His quantum chaos generators could be linked together to create a massive field of pure randomness. If the human fleet could surround the retreating Devourers, they could trap the machines in an area where their own technology would work against them. All ships execute Pattern Omega, Morrison ordered. Using the code name for humanity's most desperate gambit, the human fleet moved to surround the Devourer formation. But instead of attacking, they activated their chaos generators at maximum power. The combined effect created a region of space where the laws of physics became unreliable. Energy weapons fired in random directions. Computer systems gave contradictory readings. Even the Devourer's advanced technology began to malfunction. Trapped in the chaos field, the machine ships could no longer coordinate their movements or adapt their strategies. They fired on each other by mistake. They collided with their own vessels. Their perfect efficiency became perfect confusion. One by one, the Devourer ships shut down or destroyed themselves. The ancient machines, designed to impose order on the universe, could not survive in a realm of pure chaos. Within hours, the entire enemy fleet was either destroyed or disabled. As the last Devourer ship went silent, the chaos field dispersed and normal space returned to the Nexus system. The galaxy was safe, saved by the very chaos and unpredictability that the Federation had once rejected. Ambassador Veltar's voice came over the communication system, filled with wonder and gratitude. It is over. The Devourers are defeated. How can we ever thank you? President Martinez, monitoring the battle from Earth, gave the answer that would reshape galactic civilization.